I mean, that is, but because you know the history and how close they were. I mean, you know, I've said it before, but I was on the Straight Talk Express in 2000, and those guys, I mean, he was with him every day. You know, he supported John McCain in his presidential bid every day out of love, for the senator.
The speech on the floor reminded me of a younger brother more than anything else. Not a senator, a younger brother who'd lost, you know, that's kind of the guiding light. And they had that kind of relationship. And it's, you know, it's particular in these times, it is still special when you see that relationship in politics.
Friendship's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
you know, I'm not so sure that this has anything to do with politics. I mean, it does to an extent, but Lindsey Graham lost a dear, dear friend, and it was very emotional and very moving to see him talk about him. Period.
Yes, and also, you know, they were so funny, both of them, you know, are so funny individually and so funny together, and they had sort of a shtick, you know, where they could make fun of each other. And Lindsey Graham, we don't have it, but he touched on that. He said that John McCain told a few dumb jokes over and over, which we know he did, and that what Lindsey Graham said is the more he humiliated you, the more he liked you. In that regard, I was well served.
Yeah.
I mean, just even in his grief, you know, that he's just capturing the spirit, I think, of their friendship.
Yeah, definitely. And that tearful response from Senator Graham sort of harkens back to an old era in the Senate where, you know, you'd have sort of these smoke-filled rooms and the camaraderie that was built across the aisle and people who spent a lot of time together and really were able to build up a rapport. You don't see that quite as much these days. There's a lot of acrimony in the Senate. There's a lot of public backbiting and attacks on one another. But this was a true friendship, and as we saw during the town hall that featured Senator McCain and Senator Graham last year on CNN, Senator Graham said, you know, I love the guy. I love him. He'll die for this country, and he's a true friend. And that's a type of tribute that we saw on the Senate floor, and we will continue to see for the next few days as Senator McCain is lauded and honored for his decades of service.
One tribute we might not see is having the Russell Senate Office Building named after Senator John McCain. This is something that Chuck Schumer, the minority leader, Democratic leader, proposed, but it is exactly catching fire inside the Senate. Mitch McConnell, the majority leader, wants to put together this blue ribbon panel to figure out how to honor John McCain. There are other Republican senators who openly said, well, we're not so sure that's a good idea. I'm sort of surprised, Joe. I mean, you know, Richard Russell was a Democratic leader for a long time, made a lot of changes to this country, but he was a staunch segregationist.
Sure.
I don't quite see why it would be controversial to change the name of the building for John McCain.
Well, I mean, we live in a time where we have a president who's constantly sending messages to, if not white nationalists, to people who have some of that sentiment. That segregation maybe wasn't so bad.
But is that what this is about, or is it about not wanting to give John McCain that much credit because the president also was, as you know, at odds with him?
Sure. I actually don't think it has to do with John McCain. I think that there would not be a lot of support within the Republican Party right now to do this. And I think it does say something about our politics that we can't. You know, we have a president who talked about there being good people on both sides in Charlottesville. We had a president who said we shouldn't be pulling some of these statues down. This is a statue. You know, it's a statue to Senator Russell and to the segregationist past of this country. And my guess is Senator McCain will slow roll this until it's a distant memory, and it will never happen.
Look, it could just be inertia. It could just be inertia. But I'm always curious about the arguments. Oh, my gosh, if we rename one building, we're going to have to rename every building. Imagine that. We'll be renaming everything like it's going to be some disease of renaming that we have to guard against. Tulu, Lindsey Graham made news on two fronts yesterday. First, that deeply moving speech he made about John McCain. But he's also been making comments about the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. Lindsey Graham said there'd be hell to pay at one point if the president fired Jeff Sessions. Now he is saying something distinctly different about it. And I just want to play that quickly.
Here's what I know, that Trump doesn't like him and that this relationship is soured, and I'm not blaming Jeff. It can't go on like this. I mean, it's either got to get better. It's just not good for the country.
And the Washington Post overnight followed up on reporting from CNN's Jim Acosta that the president's been asking people, including his personal lawyers representing him in a criminal case, about whether or not he should fire Jeff Sessions. This appears to be gaining renewed steam, Tulu.
Yeah, I talked to people within the White House, and they say that every time senators or former senator and current Attorney General Sessions, every time his name comes up, President Trump just sours, and he immediately goes to the issue of the recusal from the Russia investigation, and it really gets under his skin. And we're starting to see some of the blockages that various other senators had put around Attorney General Sessions start to break down. We're seeing people like Senator Graham say, you know, this can't go on. And this is a former senator who was in the Senate for 20 years, who has a strong relationship with a number of people in the Senate who you would expect to protect him. And now we're seeing them start to say that this can't go on, that, you know, maybe after the midterms, President Trump would be free to get rid of Attorney General Sessions. So this is something that's going to come to a head pretty soon.
Then there's Mitch McConnell, Joe,
Yeah.
who says something different. We have that moment. Listen to this.
I have total confidence in the Attorney General. I think he ought to stay exactly where he is.
Boy, it's before 7 a.m., so I can say something nice about Mitch McConnell. That's the right position. I think Senator Graham's playing a very dangerous game here. He's legitimizing in advance a illegitimate move that the president's considering. There's no doubt in my mind that President Trump, as the vice tightens a little bit, will do whatever he can to save himself, including, you know, pardons across the board, Manafort, for example, firing Sessions, firing Rosenstein. And I think Senator Graham hasn't fully thought through what he's talking about here. You know, the personal relationship between the Attorney General and the President. I mean, look at Lyndon Johnson and Bobby Kennedy. It wasn't about whether they like each other or not, or whether they got along. It's about whether this investigation is legitimate, which it is, and whether it will continue.
Tolu, Joe, thank you both very much for being 44. So when Maria is close to 3,000